We're coming out dangerous.
Rockets going off.
Sometimes the brightest stars shine for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
We got to bring home the W.
Oh yeah, we're gonna destroy them.
Put them on the Heisman watch.
They're fine, man.
Big Ben Player of the Year.
We're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I played a little adult league goalie.
I felt like I scored in the World Cup, but I didn't even score.
Controversy? Question mark?
Pure chaos.
Go crazy was insane.
Chris Petley, he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my prime right now. Let's go.
And welcome back to a little TallySCtalk podcast here for episode 2. They didn't kick us off the airwaves yet, so in that regard, a big success. Also, apologize on the upfront. We're sounding rough this week. Both of the boys gave it our all this weekend for TSC, so we lost voices, and we're having those allergies kick in just because we gave our life and soul out this weekend for TSC to root them on. Once again, the voices, plural, of the Tallahassee Soccer Club. If you were able to catch the play-by-play and the highlights, Andrew Joop, and I bring alongside my co-host, Trent, Big Game Young. Trent, how we doing during the week, my man?
Good weekend, great showing. First game of the season, was very excited to be in attendance to witness that. Feeling a little rough, like you said, but hey, nothing's going to stop us or slow us down. So just happy to be back here and talking about our boys.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are sounding nasally, so just wanted to kind of address the elephant in the room, of course, Trent, as there'll be something going on. So we may have to kind of hit the pause button, hit the cough button here if we start hacking and coughing and sneezing. So just bear with us here. And I'm sure you are familiar to bearing with us if you were able to go on that marathon of a maiden voyage that we had last week, almost a 2-hour audio journey there, Trent. But whoever came back, man, and that's exciting stuff. But enough about us. Let's get to the boys. Let's get to the game. You talked about the excitement and how pumped up you were and how we both lost our voices after the game of how exciting it was early this week. So, man, just tell me instant reactions. Biggest headlines coming out of the game for you.
Yeah, biggest headline for me definitely got to be Cole Red's banger in the 90th minute. Outside of the box, just caught it on the bounce up and just went right over the keeper, back to net. Fans went crazy, crowd went wild. It was awesome. You lost your voice on that play distinctly. I've lost mine over the course of this week, but yeah, no, it was incredible just being out there. Record attendance, by the way, 845 was the official word that we got. So that was very exciting to see such a strong showing first game of the season. But yeah, right out the gates, Battle Lines came out hot, swinging, fighting for every ball, every possession. So that was very exciting to see. They just seemed like they were a pass or two away there in the first half from picking out the man. Cy Fontenot out wide was on the recipient or close to being the recipient on many a play right there in the first half. And just excited to see the team chemistry progress and develop as the season goes along and see how they can capitalize on that momentum from the first game. Even though they lost, it was still a very strong showing against the Jacksonville Armada.
Absolutely, Trent. Yeah, it was a really great showing. Like you said, great atmosphere, and like you said, it was so rewarding, that 90th minute goal for those who were able to go to the full 90 minutes, and the fans who stuck it out, Trent, and we know it was a good time. And that's kind of one of the big takeaways, is one of the things that we wanted to talk about up top is, of course, falling initially with a 2-1, but there were a lot of things at stake here. Of course, with the new league, you had the hosting of the event. This is really, for Tallahassee, this is the first big event that's kind of sanctioned by the city in the area. Of course, you had the limited restricted seating over at Doak. You didn't really have any big FAMU events athletics-wise this year. In Florida State, of course, like we said, the restricted attendance. So this was the big show, man. This was, open season. There was plenty of seating for the anticipated crowd and enough ability for everyone to keep coming out for this one. And so Gene Cox Stadium down on the south side, wide open, everybody ready to go for this show. And to me, man, if I've got a family and I'm trying to look for something for 3 or 4 hours of entertainment. This was a win for me, man. Kids got in free. There was tailgating out in the parking lot, able to come in, watch the game. There's a fielded area where the kids can go kick the soccer ball around and have some fun, and just an all-about Tallahassee family experience. Kind of all those buzzwords, and catchphrases they were throwing around all week. Family, Tallahassee, for the city, by the city, all that. Check, 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 check. So when you're talking about big picture of this event, is because this is so much more than a soccer game and so much more that they're trying to build. And this is a team that's still trying to get on the radar, Trent. Even in their own city, people are still discovering it, still finding out what it is. But right now, they're like Major League Baseball in the summer. They are the only show in town. They're the only thing that's going on. Obviously, Tallahassee doesn't have a pro MLB team, but, metaphorically, in the sporting world, for the large part, especially after the NBA is done, baseball is the only thing going on. And so they have a real chance to captivate the city, not only as an athletics program, but just as something going on and a source of entertainment. And Trent, I thought that was a huge win. And to your point, that cool red goal helps a lot, my man, because the fans that were still there, which was the vast majority, like you said, we were just a stone's throw away from 900 to 1,000 people, and up in that area. And largely, I want to say at least 700, 800 were still there at the end of the ball game. Of course, some with the younger kids, they got to go home. So we understand that narrative. But man, it erupted, and you saw the Old Field Battalion. They popped open the smoke canisters, and you saw that golden black smoke pouring out from the right of our side, because, we were up in the press box, but to our right was where they were sitting, the south side of the field geographically. But man, that place just erupted, and just to feel that electricity in that moment, and all kind of the atmospheric stuff that we talked about, I think was just a big entertainment value win. Definitely one of my big takeaways from this weekend, my man. That was just a dope thing to be a part of and to experience, and glad that we were able to come along with the city in that regard for that moment, for that couple of hours, to say, hey, this is something that you want to bring your friends and family out to.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, just with kids getting in free and everything like that, there's really no other thing you should be doing on a Saturday night in Tallahassee, because they're growing the community, they're growing the sport of soccer, and they're just putting on a nice, fun, friendly, family atmosphere for everyone to come to. And like you said, there was a grassy area where the children could kick the ball, but they also could go out there after the game. We got a few shots in on goal after the game ourselves, so they left a couple balls out there for everybody to kick around. So just really exciting to see what they're doing in the community, and how uniting it can be in this soon-to-be post-COVID world, or at least we hope so.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously not going to be a cut and paste end to it. It's going to be a gradual scale, kind of like what we talked on a little bit last time. But one of the things that we were looking to discover, I guess, is just about the team, about the impressions, about how they gelled together. Because we talked about kind of the atmospheric, those intangibles, those things that you can't see on the box score or on the field. But Trent, being down there in the atmosphere, experiencing all those things, and seeing how the team interacted and how the team functioned, I guess maybe team-wise for TSC, what were kind of your thoughts or some of the expectations that you had, and some answers or more questions maybe even that you got on Saturday?
As I said previously, just when I was recapping the game, I thought that some of the balls that they were sending out wide came just a tad bit too early. They were the right idea. The team was, just one or two passes away from an opportunity to score a goal. But I just think that they needed to establish possession a little bit more in the center of the park with Nasimba, with Jacob Schmelker, the captain, with Aaron Wimberly, the defensive mid. Wimberly had 1.5 million tackles in that match. So he was kind of sparking the offense, getting the ball, turning it on the counter. So I really loved head to toe the performance from the Battle Lions in this match. Unfortunately, they just went up against one of the giants, the Goliaths in the league, in the Jacksonville Armada U23 team. So, they had 2 goals in the first half, and we'll definitely get into that, I'm sure, here in a second or two. But it's the way that they fought throughout the second half, throughout the entire 90 minutes into extra time, sending long balls in, Cronbeck, the keeper, coming all the way up to midfield, beyond midfield, sending in ball after ball right there in the last couple minutes. I mean, it was just really exciting, even though they lost. Definitely was something to hang their hat on in the first week, the inaugural game of their NPSL tenure.
That is definitely something that you saw throughout, is the fight, the intensity, the energy, all that stuff, all the kind of mantras that they came into. And what you typically see as a team by the head man, Coach Bruno, is something that he instills in the ball club. You know, that we heard throughout the week from the players, and then we also heard from Chris and from Coach and different things they were trying to accomplish against this Armada squad. Because we built it up and we talked about it as they would be the kind of quote-unquote underdogs, but with the fight, with the intensity and the energy they played, even with the result and even the deficit that we saw them encounter, it never felt, at least to me, and tell me if you feel otherwise, Trent, I never thought the game was out of reach. It never felt out of reach. And, I mean, we kept bringing it up through the whole broadcast, is there weren't a lot of good chances really both ways. It was just that there was probably, maybe half a dozen per half of, you could say, quality chances or quality build-up to potential chances. And just the capitalization for the two in the first half, obviously, for Jacksonville is essentially the difference in the ballgame. Of course, with some other topics of conversation, which we'll get to a little bit down the line. But for the most part, they were right there. And the effort and the intensity is there. And that's what this team's going to be. That's what this team's going to have to be. And kind of that junkyard mentality, at least for this game. Of course, we know how different referee crews and everything go throughout the season, or just a sequence of events for a league, and how that varies drastically in any level of sport. So we'll see how that continues. But the referees, pretty consistent, and pretty much let them play and let it be decided on the field. There were no moments where I thought the referee was trying to take back the game or was trying to control the game. Basically called the really obvious stuff, and even stuff, there's some borderline that you could raise issue about. Of course, we're always going to be pro TSC, so we have to put on that magnifying glass. For the most part, the referees were letting them play, and so things kind of played out, which I think plays into a team who is a little more scrappy or intense or energetic, as you're going to pick up these tic-tac fouls if they're calling a lot of stuff, and so that can get you into trouble if cards start flying around. Even with the 7 substitutions, if you're getting red cards, you can't sub somebody in for that. You're still going man down. This isn't rec ball, or this isn't city ball where you can swap somebody out. That was one thing to take away from me, is the intensity and the passion was there. And like we said, this is a team that you've kind of fall in love with and that you can root for, because when you do see them like giving their all out there, that was just awesome. And you just see when the players coming off the round of applause, like thanking the fans and just so gracious in that. And like everybody that you talk to around this team is just kind of really appreciative of what they're building in the community. And I think that feeds itself. The community's passion feeds into the players, energizes them, makes them more appreciative. And it's just kind of this catch-22 in a positive sense. But that was another one of mine, was just really cool to kind of see that cycle through. And this junkyard dog team, man, but they kept fighting to the very, very bitter end, as was shown, like you said, by the late goal, Trent. Big picture stuff, because if not, we can kind of get into more kind of nuts and bolts and kind of pick apart the game a little bit, impressions, and a little bit of recap for those who either forgot it, short memory, and wanted to kind of put it away, or didn't have the chance to go out there or watch the game tape that we could put up, man. But any more big picture stuff?
When we were asking Chris Hetley, president of the club, this past week after practice, we asked him, what is the identity of this club? All the players he talked about, just the club as a whole, he said everyone was just working hard, and they just were going to go after it and get it. 110% effort is the MO of this club. And I think that was just entirely on display Saturday. I mean, head to toe, goalkeeper, defenders, all the way up to the striker, Justin Laird, Nick Ramsden. I mean, everybody's fighting for everything. And it was just really exciting to see them, even though they probably knew that they were the underdog going into this match, see them play as if they were right in it. And like you said, it never felt like they were out of it at all. The full 90 minutes added time in each half. I mean, it felt like they were just 1 or 2 passes away the whole match. So that was really exciting just to see them get out there and just work their tails off. As you said, a lot of the players in the community a lot of players on the team bring out members from the community. Like when Justin Laird was subbed off, I saw him pointing up into the crowd, and everyone's giving him kind of a round of applause, standing ovation. So it's just exciting to see everyone on this team have people in the crowd there backing them. And it seems like the whole crowd that night, besides the handful of Armada supporters that came all the way out to Tallahassee. But yeah, other than them, everyone seemed to be really on board. What I have here for my takeaway.
So I guess as we talk kind of big picture, Trent, as we kind of slide in here, you want to talk about kind of stars of the game as a little preview, or should we go bit by bit, kind of break the game down in chunks and then arrive at our stars of the game? Spoilers or no spoilers is the big question.
I'm not a fan of spoilers, so I say we'll just go ahead and go through the game, and we can kind of leave the audience up to infer throughout our analysis which way we're leaning.
There you go. Like a pro, Trent. All right, so we talked about team coming into this ball game. Underdog mentality is what we're going after, and they were going to have to play big time and win some crucial situations and steal a couple here to take down Jacks and fight throughout, which is something that they did. Fight. So, Trent, started off pretty wild. Give me your first impressions, first couple minutes, maybe first 5-10. What are you thinking for the boys here?
Sure, yeah. So in the first minute, if I'm not mistaken, Jacob Schmelker won the ball. He got a tackle there in one possession for the Battle Line. So that was really exciting. Siphon No, number 8, the outside mid, was helping on the pressure, kind of boxed him in and left the Armada player with really nowhere to go other than to turn the ball over. And so that resulted a couple minutes later, maybe just right after that, actually, I think, in a 5-on-5 break that they had. So they, didn't necessarily have numbers, but they were in the attacking third, putting the pressure on Armada right out the gates in the first minute or so. And then Javoni Brown from the Armada had a shot in the first minute. After that 5-on-5 break, they got the ball, and he was about 45 yards out and ripped it. And, it just kind of snuck past the post. He was making sure that Crombeck was on his toes, and it was a long shot, no pun intended. But, yeah, a couple minutes after that, in the 6th minute, Drew Daunt had a nice diving header. I apologize. Drew Daunt had a nice diving header on defense, won the ball for the Battle Lines as well. He was a workhorse going in on every challenge, battling as a Battle Line should. He was definitely not any spoilers or anything, but I think he made the list on one of our MVPs of the match. But yeah, after that, the Jacksonville Armada had an attempt on goal right after a free kick they earned in the 8th minute. Damani Brown was called for a foul for shoving and grabbing the defender. But later on there in the 9th minute, Crombeck stepped out and had a really good clearance, cut off the cross, intercepted the ball. So was just right out the gate, Crombeck was firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, so I think that's a good, a good kind of picturesque of the first little sequence of events there. Because you think about it, TSC coming on the front foot. They're looking to attack. They're looking to get after it. They're looking to make something happen. And I think the first probably 8 to 10 minutes, TSC won. If you're breaking it down into segments of the game, Trent, you talk about how these teams win sections of the game. Here's where they succeeded. Here's where, they kind of took momentum, and especially such a fluid game as soccer. Momentum is so huge, and being able to capture that and capitalize that and continue to succeed in those ventures. So, yeah, obviously right off the front foot, good defensive trap. Here, a little takeaway. That was kind of thing that set the table for us. You talked about, the takeaways. Out on the perimeter, phenomenal defense from TSC, I think, all night long. They were able, when the ball was in the perimeter, to have the midfield or the front line come back, and they did really well in communicating and trapping on defense and try to spring load a counterattack, which was something they could potentially catch the Armada off guard that we talked about earlier in our preview and as we were going through things. Also, like you said, something that was kind of foreshadowing was back inside the box when Devontae Brown for Jacksonville Armada was tried to throw the center backs around a little bit. The referee said, not today. And so he had a penalty, and then we had a kick going out. So once again, foreshadowing on that. Also, you talked about the two defensemen, Daunt going off. He was all over it. One of the position players we talked about, typically up front with his school dropping back on defense here for TSC, filling a need here for the time being. Like you said, a phenomenal diving header in the box as well. And like we said, another question mark was who's going to be between the pipes? What's that going to look like? And obviously, Graham-Beck, first action that he saw, really, he had a confident, steps out, no fear from the glove man, Trent. Snatch that one out of the air, and that's what you love to see. Early, if your keeper gets tested, make an impact, get him in the game, get him confident, and be able to continue to go forward. But I thought a very successful 8 to 10 minutes here to start for TSC. Was there a little change after that?
After that, it seemed like the Armada kind of established possession a little better. But at the same time, Drew Daunt had a shot, and in the 16th minute, if I'm not mistaken, that one just bounced off the field goal post, just over the crossbar of the goal. So even though the Armada kind of started to establish the game and possession and everything, even though they had control, we were still able to get a few chances in here and there the whole match, not just here early on. But it was very exciting to see them set the tone so early and get chances.
Yeah, for sure. And as we kind of jump into the next segment, I guess, is after those first 10 to 8 minutes, it seemed that either the Armada kind of responded or whether they were feeling the game or kind of got jump-started with this TSC offensive here early. Sometimes it takes you a minute, especially after a long bus ride and stuff like that on the road, Trent. And we'd known from playing a little soccer, traveling around, is just being able to jumpstart it. It's hard to kind of get into that mix. But they were able to do that after a little bit and got rolling and started to get the offense going. That's when you started to see some of those long balls, the construction, the build-up from the midfield to the attack. And I thought the passing for the Armada was pretty great when they were on the offensive side, fitting through a lot of tight windows, because you see these balls going through and the TSC guys going to ground and trying to cut off these passes. And this was kind of another thing going on, the movement from the Armada, but so many of these passes were so close to being picked off. If they were a couple inches either way, man, these were getting shut down and the offensive was going to be eliminated there, but they were getting through a couple. And so there was a huge sequence in the 14th minute where they had a little bit of a jump, and it was Krembeck. He was basically the last man. It was a good shot. He goes to ground, boom, saves it. Ball bounces back out. They rip another shot, rams off the crossbar. They're able to collect it again, another one on target, and then so Krembeck dives to his left, and it goes out for a corner as well. So in the vacuum, right around there, should have been 1-0, because Krembeck goes to ground on the first one. All the guy had to do was chip it over, go high. He obviously went too high, but two phenomenal saves there by Krembeck. And, Trent, we talk about it all the time, and we even said it during the broadcast, is when you have a keeper, especially in the underdog role, you look at your keeper and you say you're going to need at least 2-3 big saves each half. And so Trent, he got 2 big ones out of the way there, because we talked about it. We kind of referenced back to these moments is that definitely should have been 1-0. And once again, continuing the theme, Krembeck answering the call, man. 2 big ones there from a vaunted front line that was going to keep coming after it, and especially in the first half was just pressing, but able to withstand it in that next 10-minute segment. But that was some very quality shots, man. They got some good looks. Devontae Brown really started to kind of warm up to it. He was starting to run around a little bit on that weak side. Up top, we saw he was kind of be the presence. And it made me kind of think a little bit. Coming into this one, we talked about a couple different offensive threats that we could see from Jacksonville, but he wasn't necessarily on our primary list, man, which makes you wonder if they had been padding those stats a little bit to make him look a little less threatening on paper. But any other reflections on kind of that next segment, maybe that kind of 10 to 20-minute segment there early in the first half?
You mentioned that, goalies have to get, 2, 3, 4 saves each half, to really stay in the game. We thought that they might be coming, but I don't think we thought the 2, 3 were going to happen within just the span of a couple seconds there.
That was real quick. Shot, save, crossbar, save, man. Yeah, that was in rapid succession. That was action-packed for sure. That was some dangerous living, man. I thought for sure one of the 3 was going in, but we had a little smile from the soccer gods early in the first half.
Yeah, we did. And I remember you saying, all you had to do was just kind of chip that over the defender there and get that on goal. And he just kind of he rushed it, didn't really take his time, ripped it a little too hard, and like you said, just a little luck sometimes is all it is.
Absolutely. But I've been there before myself, man. You get an opportunity and then you just want to blast that thing real good. I mean, you get the tendency, man, when you get excited, you start leaning back, ball elevates, boom, crossbar. So like we said, very, very fortunate, but it got the nerves going a little bit. So where did it put you going after that? Pick us up from 20-plus minute mark, reactions from that point.
The Armada still had the possession, the lion's share of possession, no pun intended, through the next 10, 15 minutes up leading into the water break at the 30-minute mark. In the 25th minute, the Armada did have a lengthy free kick. They sent it into the box, but it was a great clearance from the Simba. He was on top of the ball in the air a lot in the second half, and we needed him to push up a little bit more. But in the first half, he defended a little bit more, and he definitely was vital for the defense there, getting that ball out of the box on the free kick.
Yeah, absolutely. Great take to the air on the free kick and able to front his defender, take care of business, pump it out wide, and actually get things going the other way. Trent, and then we had a little push in the 25th, but off a throw-in, because after we kicked it out wide to the left, so we're advancing on our attacking left, approaching midfield. We had a Jacks takeaway on their half, and then they served across field. It went out. So now we've got a throw in on our side. This is 26th minute. So our formation's a little skewed. You know, we have a little gap over here on the right side. So a good throw in, but I just thought a very tactically and obviously rehearsed formational, whether it's a formational mismatch or just a recognition. So we throw it short to the right, and then they had a beautiful trap. One of their center mid comes up, and he's on the back of the TSC guy, and then the outside mid comes and just sweeps the ball, and boom, just then they have an instant kind of, I think it's a 4-on-3 or a 4-on-4 break to jumpstart this. Then we had two sliding tackles to cut off the centering ball and the through ball that set up to Devontae Brown. So he was the number 9. He's cutting across kind of diagonally the field, the entry ball, and we were inches, Trent, inches from both of those balls on the sliding efforts. And so the second one gets through. So Devontae Brown, number 9 for Jacksonville, 1-on-1. And then we got Krembeck on the back line. So he's going to his right, does a little hesitation move, a full body stiff arm, Trent, full left-handed extension. And I've watched the replay now between 12 and 15 times of this sequence because I want to make sure I got it right, and I'm trying not to play the homer card here, Trent. So, yellow card, break out the golden card if I'm going to homer. But, man, it looked to me like a straight-up stiff arm, so that creates his space. He's able to settle, right foot, bottom left corner. So clinical finish. I'm not arguing the clinical finish. I'm not arguing the breakup because the through ball was spectacular and the finish was spectacular. I'm just saying the push-off, to me, was a foul, able to create the space because it was a non-soccer play. You look at the field, and you look at that sequence of play, there was one glaring element that doesn't look like a soccer play, and that was it. That was what created the space. It's just like in the NBA, a push-off to create your shot and then have a fadeaway, or the wide receiver in the top of your break. You throw the cornerback out of the way, you turn around, oh, I'm wide open. I can whip this out and swing it around for a touchdown. That makes a difference in the play. So personally, would call an infraction there, and so that's why we talked about that kind of foreshadowing, because earlier he did get called for that same play. Number 9 for Jacksonville got caught in the box, getting handsy, all that kind of stuff. So you come back here, he doesn't get called for that, and so this one gets put in the back of the net. But it's unfortunate, man, you talked about a game of inches, because if either one of those tackles, so you can say maybe they're going to ground a little bit early, maybe they're going after the ball, but it's that two-sided coin. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, Trent. Like, if you don't go after that ball, then you're just kind of like letting it go through. But if they catch one of those balls, then you're like, oh my gosh, heroic play, what a tackle, blah, blah, blah. So to me, the difference is the push-off. That was kind of a hard pill to swallow, man. But like we said, build up in the finish, no argue about that.
I would agree with you, and I don't think either of us are being a homer because it was just a blatant full extension of the arm. Like you said, it's just a non-soccer play. So unfortunately, that went unnoticed. It got called a few minutes earlier, but that one went unnoticed. Like you said, great pass, great setup, and it was a clinical strike. I mean, he buried it in the bottom corner. A little unfortunate on that end, but hey, that's how the game goes. That's how the ball bounces sometimes.
That takes us to the 30-minute water break, so we catch a breather. Obviously feeling a little heavy from the action that just went down, letting up the goal, and so 1-0 Jacksonville at this point. Still anybody's ball game. We are 2/3 of the way through the first half. Of course, we're playing 45-45, total 90. Did anything change for you, Trent? Because obviously we talked about TSC kind of dominating the first 8 to 10 minutes of the game, and then you go back for the next 20 minutes. I think you could say, not necessarily dominated by Jacksonville, but you could definitely say Jacksonville controlling the majority of possession, and they felt in control of those next 20 minutes. Lift us off post-water break before the halftime whistle.
Right after the water break, there was a yellow card in the 31st minute, shortly after we were in play. And that was against number 16 for the Armada. I don't believe we had his name. We were having trouble. They didn't get the roster to us in time until like halfway through the match. So sorry, we don't have all the names and numbers.
Even then, it was wrong, Trent. And as I jump in here, we were given a roster, and then I was emailing the person that sent in the roster the other day, and the numbers that they had were still a mismatch. So yeah, we were trying to play catch up on Jacksonville, and that was unfortunate. Sorry, Trent, not to jump in there, but I had to defend our honor. You know, we're not incompetent morons. We can only provide correct information that's provided to us.
Precisely. And a couple minutes after that, in the 34th minute, there was a really good pass out wide to the front line to Justin Laird, but unfortunately just got cut out last second. The Armada stepped in front of the pass, broke it up, and then they turned around and went on the counter. But then just a minute after that, TSC had another chance and another good ball in for Reading. But unfortunately, Lucas Reading was unable to get on the receiving end. And then just before the break, in the 38th minute, Crombeck was off the line, had a huge save. That was his third save of the half. Can't give him credit for the crossbar save. But yeah, that was about the third, fourth, maybe even fifth good chance there for the Armada. Could have easily been 2, 3, 4. I remember we talked about that off air of the broadcast. That, you know, they could have easily had a few more goals. Kind of the momentum swung in their way after that first one. They didn't give one up again until the first minute of stoppage time in the first half. Giovanni Brown got his second goal of the game. And that was just a lofted ball coming over the top, and we just missed it on the slide tackle. Dropped his shoulder a little bit. Somebody went to ground and slid, and he got him on that first fake. And then when they went to ground, he just hesitated slightly, shot it right over him, and that was the second goal of the half, unfortunately.
So that was an interesting sequence of events, Trent, as you kind of saw the game open up a little more. You know, the old adage is, you know, a goal breaks the game, because both the teams start with a share of the lead, and so sometimes in a game, especially the first game of the season, you try to see them hold on to that. But once there's a breakthrough, the team has the advantage, so now TSC can go chase. And so as they're trying to catch back up, but also TSC's trying to counteract that, sometimes you can become more vulnerable. I thought both teams had some good chances, so it made for a really exciting, I thought, last 10 minutes. And you kind of feel that TSC started to get in a little bit because those balls that you talked about, maybe a little off, the long balls, the service that we saw earlier in the game, those were starting to connect. And Schmoker had a couple dimes, dude. Your boy was serving. And a couple of those chances that TSC had that you talked about, that one service up to, I think it was Reading, and then there was another service a little later in the game. I think it was about like 35th minute. But I remember there was a couple kind of sequences in this kind of 10 to 15 minute stretch where he was starting to get into that as kind of that facilitator role and kind of that kind of captain's mentality of, you know, laying his hands on the game and facilitating everything in that mix. But yeah, the one thing was, I don't know if it was maybe detrimental or, you know, affected his mindset, but unfortunately did pick up the yellow card, which is big to pick that up in the opening half, because he's an aggressive tackler. Once you pick up that yellow, you know, do you go for it? Do you don't go for it? Because if you pick up another one, man, you know, that's trouble. That's red card, and then you're going home. But that was in the 42nd minute. A little bit of a meaty challenge, Trent. Tell me your thoughts a little bit about the yellow card.
So the entire first half was fairly chippy from both sides. You know, there was the one yellow card prior to Schmoker's, but for the most part, like we said, the referee was just letting him play. And the yellow card wasn't necessarily for set tackle that Schmoker had there. It was kind of just the progression of build-up of the chippiness that in the aggression that he was playing with there in the first half. And like you said, then once you get that yellow card, it does kind of seep into your head, like you're second guessing going in for challenges, winning the ball, and that just totally affects the way you go at the game. But yeah, he was a dog first half, and I mean, you can't fault him for trying to win that ball over and over again.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those scenarios where you see almost that cumulative yellow, I think that we were talking about, is kind of, hey, you saw TSC 3 to 4 meaty challenges, and so, those kind of added up into the yellow card, and so Schmoker, kind of ironically, as the captain, kind of eats it, or I guess is kind of the archetype, heavy lies the crown, and so he gets that put on him. But still, even after that, you had another chance. A couple minutes after that, you had a big win out of the back by Daunt, jump-started. I think you had another Schmoker. Maybe that was the Schmoker service I was thinking about to get them on the attack. Armada stepped up to the plate, took care of it, but then TSC came back with another wave in the 45th minute. You talked about the lateral crosses and how they were starting to get into the movements. Nisimba had a gorgeous cross, dude, from the left side to the right side. They were trying to pin down that corner and find that little alley, because it's a delicate balance when you're switching the ball, trying to get it over to your winger or your forward. One, you got to keep it shallow enough where the goalie can't come out, or wide enough. It's either got to be shallow or wide to keep it away from the center back and the goalie. So ideally, it's wide and deep, especially when you got a speedy guy like Cy, who we can call cousin Cy, right, Trent? Because we found out over the weekend that he's basically your cousin, very good friends with your cousin. And so we can basically call him Cousin Cy. Am I incorrect in that, Trent?
No, absolutely. I think that's a great nickname for Cy. I know he and I are acquaintances on Instagram. We follow each other. So, yeah, we're pretty much cousins now.
There you go. So hereby referring to as Cousin Cy, Cuzzo, whatever your favorite terminology. Anyway, so Cousin Cy, in this sequence of events after the Nisimba cross, he's got a mean rip at goal. So he lowers the foot, rips it with the laces, doesn't necessarily get the bend, but that was a quality look he had on the right side, and we finally got that connection and the service that you kind of wanted to see us going forward to finish up the second half. So you're feeling good, and then, boom, a little sequence. Once again, the build-up, phenomenal. Can't take anything away. The over-the-top ball was gorgeous. The entry ball coming in for, once again, Giovanni Brown. He seems like our Achilles heel, man. He was able to get that and control it. And I don't know. So you can kind of call me out, and maybe this is kind of me looking too into things, as I've now seen this highlight once again, probably 8 to 10 times, as I really kind of have been picking apart the game here and kind of really trying to study it and get into it now that I've had some time to decompress and not being caught up in the moment. But like you said, money head fake that he gives, defender goes to ground to try to block it, and then he pulls the trigger. To me, and kind of seeing how he was kind of feeling the game out and how he approached it, one, you kind of felt him kind of feeling out the physicality of the game. Early in the game, on the attack, and then with that penalty kick, he got called for the foul, and he knows that the referees can let them play a little bit, and so potentially the 26th minute, can you give him some credit, Brown, for the stiff arm? He's basically telling the referees, like, hey, I have another attacking chance. You're going to call it on me again, making the ref blow the whistle. And so the referee swallows the whistle that time. And so he's kind of on a similar attempt in that facet. He said, hey, these TSC guys, they're really attacking the ball, really aggressive on defense, going to the ground, trying to win this ball. So with the pump fake, maybe realizing or thinking that his defender goes to the ground and then goes and rips the second effort. And Abel, once again, clinical finish, well, beautiful entry ball from the back. He's able to control it and then go forward, and then he's coming across laterally from near side to far side towards the middle of the goal, back against his body. Once again, clinical bottom left corner, and puts it in for his second goal of the night and makes it 2-0 Jacks. Am I giving him too much credit? Am I fan crushing on him a little bit here, Trent? Because, these are all these players here. First of all, they're semi-pro. Second of all, a lot of these guys have been around, and most of these guys are playing college ball and are experienced and been playing the game all their lives. And so, these are some next-levels player, man. Is it out of the question to kind of throw something like that into the mix?
Could be a little bit of both. Battle lines were going to ground a ton in the first half. On the first goal, 2 slide tackles that were just inches away from cutting the ball off. Yeah, no, I definitely think that he used that knowledge to his advantage when that was a deliberate pump fake. He definitely expected the defender to react. Whether he thought he was going to go to ground or not, that's another story. That kind of could have just been the perfect storm there. But the second he saw whoever was slide, I mean, he knew that shot was his, and he didn't hesitate at all before he could even get back up. And the defender did a great job going to ground, popping right back up just a second too late. I mean, that was just so clinical.
Yeah, so calculated. And that was the one thing, Trent, as, you got to love the aggressiveness for the defense of lunging after it. And we're not trying to rag on any of that. But this is what I was looking back at because we check it out. I think Brown was a UNF guy, if I remember correctly. I think he's a junior there. So obviously coming off the season, once again, I was curious of whether they were padding these stats. So they said he only played 9 games. They said he only had 21 shots, and they said he only had 2 goals coming in. So he puts in 2 goals in the first half on the boys. But, I mean, Brown looked ready to go, man. And especially in the first half when Jacksonville was kind of full bore, he had it rocking and rolling, and he was definitely the focal point of this offense. It was calculated. They were getting number 9 the ball, and he was going to try to go after it, and he was going to try to score. I mean, he was successful in the first half, man. What do you say? He had 2 gorgeous finishes. Like we said, maybe the first one with an asterisk, but, you can't say anything about that second one. Like we said, Krembeck, phenomenal first half, but both of those out of reach. There's no keeper in this league that's stopping either one of those, the way that was finished and the way everything progressed. So 2-0 Jacks, and that's how they take it into halftime. Part of me, Trent, and I want to see how you feel, part of me said, with those chances that they generated, maybe deserved, but then it also felt like a cheap 2-0 too. So I was kind of torn in that regard. Like we said, Krembeck had some phenomenal saves back there, so it could have been potentially 3, potentially 4. But then at the same time, just the way the sequence of events that happened, it was just like, man, so close for those to getting slid out of there, and just, a hand outside of Krembeck and all these other things, and you start making excuses, but then where is my reality shifting? Where is my fandom taking over? Where is the actual center of all of that? So, a lot of 50-50 balls were won by Jacksonville, and I feel like they controlled majority possession. But, I mean, TSC was right there. They generated some good chances as well, especially in the early part, and then also after that kind of 35-minute spell that we talked about, those kind of final 10 to 15 minutes. It was kind of Wild West, both teams going back and forth with some quality chances. Legit build-up. So I guess your thought, 2-0, where did it stand for you? I know I kind of played both sides of the fence there, as I almost always do. And, I kind of play neutral and then set you up to try to set you up for failure. Your thoughts, Trent?
It really could go both ways. Like you said, 3 or 4 chances easily could have been goals there in the first half for the Armada. But again, Dont also hit one off the post. So I felt like 2-0 was a pretty moderately fair reflection of how both teams played. 2-0 in the first half. But at the same time, there totally is an asterisk by that first goal, man. I mean, there's just no way all the years that I've played and watched the game that can stand. So, I mean, it was a goal. They got it. It's on the scorecard. But I definitely think it could have easily gone to halftime 1-0. I mean, I'm going to give Krombeck some credit because he definitely earned it there. And like you said, on the 2 goals that did happen, there's no keeper in this league that was going to be able to stop those. I mean, those were clinical strikes, bottom of the goal, bottom corner. I mean, that's the hardest spot. I played a little adult league goalie and little JV goalie myself.
Look out.
But, the shots on the ground in the bottom corners, those are definitely the hardest to defend against, because you're already standing up. You can jump up in the top corner a lot easier than it is to jump all the way down on the ground. So really nothing Krombeck could do, but a great showing.
Yeah, absolutely. The fight was there, the intensity was there, and the dynamic was there. So we go to the break. And that is the halftime whistle. So that's going to do it all for part 1 here of the TallySCtalk podcast. On behalf of Andrew Joop and Trent Young, thanks for coming aboard with us. Make sure you like, subscribe, notify, whatever you have to do or whatever they do on those social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at TallySCtalk to get the notification for the next episode. We have so much more interesting ground to cover. It'll be more than just us talking, I promise. We'll have interrogations of interest, which, of course, to the layman are interviews. We've got players. We've got a coach conversation. And then we're also talking about the future of the TSC season, talking MPSL standings, what the future may hold, and so much more. So make sure you come right on back. But until then, take care.